All right, what's up, everybody? I'm here with Charlie Light, and he is another YouTuber that actually started his channel around the same time I started mine. He specializes in something a little bit different than I do, though. And sorry about the focus. This camera's a little weird. You can see if I get out of the camera, he goes into focus.
There we go.
So we're just gonna try to just deal with it. But yeah, so I'm happy that he's here. He just drove out from Denver.
Yeah.
And we're gonna ask him some questions about cold calling and what he knows about it.
Yeah, thanks, Chase. Yeah, like you said, I'm a YouTuber. I do basically cold calling, mostly for marketing agencies, but also software companies. So on my channel, I just talk about sales. I talk about how to cold call, and I actually do some live cold calls. And basically my sales tips and tricks for how to book meetings, how to handle a meeting, how to close deals. So yeah, thanks for having me, Chase.
Cool. Yeah, so we were already kind of talking about this when he got here, but I'm definitely interested in hearing about sort of like what got you into this whole deal instead of like going the SEO route, like starting an agency or like trying to make money managing a bunch of clients, that kind of thing, doing services.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of started probably 4 or 5 years ago. I was working for a software company doing sales. I was kind of looking to do my own thing, at least just on the side. So one thing I realized is that a lot of, especially smaller businesses, they just don't really have a lot going on in terms of sales. Like they maybe have one salesperson who just does cold calling. They don't really have good systems in place. So I realized there's a big opportunity. So got a couple of clients just from agencies, consultants that I knew kind of in the Boulder area, which is where I'm from, Boulder, Colorado. Put a couple videos out on YouTube, didn't really think much of it. I just put a couple of videos of me making cold calls, and they happened to get a few thousand views in the first couple months, even though they're pretty bad.
I remember, I think I remember seeing those when you first put them out.
Yeah, I mean...
They were good, though. They're cool. I mean, it's cool. Like, people I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I was actually promoting your channel like a while back when I first saw you, and I was like, yeah, if you want to see cold calling, go check this guy out. He's really cool.
That's funny, because a few people commented that, like, oh, I came here from the Chase
nice.
Reiner video, but then I was like, I could never find that video, so I didn't really, and you have like
I have too
hundreds
many,
of hours of content, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to watch every video.
Right.
I'm just gonna pull out like a giant drum next.
I'm known for having just like these giant water bubbles.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just because I don't like getting up all the
thing.
time and getting in the water.
That's true. No, but so I put a couple like really awkward phone calls. I mean, I think people liked him because it was like an honest portrayal of cold calling, and I was pretty new to it, so I wasn't like the best at it. But yeah, just put up a few cold calls of me trying my best, getting an appointment or two, and people liked it just because it was authentic. So I kind of built like a business out of that. Just people see the video, contact me, I do some sales consulting for them. So now what I do is basically sales consulting, like help companies put systems in place so they can actually have an effective sales process. And I actually help a lot of companies with cold calling as well. And I think I can definitely talk about some of the things I've seen that work well for like agencies and what doesn't work well. But yeah.
I'm definitely curious, like, what is the biggest upside and the biggest downside with what you do?
With my business?
Because I'll say like what I would think would be the biggest downside is like all the awkward interactions and like needing to be like, hey, how's it going? And then people are like, who the heck are you? Because that would make me feel super awkward all the time. But I'm sure you get past that though too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I think, the worst thing is like if I'm doing it for a client or if I'm cold calling for myself, if you don't have a plan, it's really tough.
Right.
And especially when I was starting out, like I'd make 10 cold calls and maybe all of them went poorly. It's kind of tough to continue doing it.
Right.
So the first thing that I try to do for clients is basically just put something in place that's actually going to work. It doesn't have to work perfectly. Obviously, cold calling and sales is just, even if you're like at 5 or 10% success rate, you're doing well. But
really? 5 or 10%? So 90% of the people are just like, dude, who the heck are you?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, if you make cold calls, usually maybe you'll talk to 20% of the people you call.
Oh,
and
really?
maybe half of those will be somewhat receptive. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is like you just have to have a real plan, like something that's actually going to work, something you can say that a lot of the times people will be interested and you can engage with them further. So yeah, I would say the worst part about cold calling is like when I've done it for clients or for myself and there was no real plan. Like I would just call people up and kind of hope that they would be interested in my horrible pitch, or like, you know, if you've ever done cold calling, you don't really have an idea what you're going to say. It's really tough too, because you call someone up and then you're like, yeah, we do SEO, we can help you with internet marketing. And if you're not certain, if it doesn't sound, you don't sound confident, almost all the time people are just going to hang up. And in that case, it's really hard to just keep going.
Right.
James.
I thought you had James DeFranco on it first.
Wait,
Who's James DeFranco?
James Franco or Philip DeFranco?
Yeah, James Franco.
Either way, that's fine. Oh, that wouldn't be disrespectful.
Yeah, that'd be a compliment, James
either
Franco.
One. James Franco or, yeah, whatever. No, I'll take that as a compliment.
So besides the conversion rates being sometimes difficult, like what would you say is like the like thing that you constantly struggle with the most? Yeah,
I think the other thing with sales is you really get the benefit only if you're in it for the long run. So I think with clients or with my own campaigns, if you only go a month and you don't get the immediate results, that can happen a lot and people get frustrated. But with sales, you really have to do it for at least 6 to 12 months to really get the real results, because what will happen is, you know, you reach out to someone and almost all the time, even if they need the service, it might not be urgent for them right then, right? Like just because you called on some specific day wanting a sale doesn't mean they're ready to have a conversation. So I almost look at prospecting as basically, it's almost like marketing in a way, just planting the seed of, hey, this is what we do, this is my company. And a lot of times people won't buy right away, and that's fine. You can't pressure people into doing something if they're not ready right then. But what I do in my prospecting is basically just try to get people to know who I am, check out my channel, stay connected with me somehow, so that 6 months from now, when the time is right, when they're like, oh, we really need to do sales, that's the guy I contact. Yeah. So yeah, that's the tough part, is like just getting my clients or new salespeople to just stick with it. Because you're really, if you're in it for like a month, I mean, I think if you're hiring a salesperson, it's obvious, you know, 1 month, nothing's gonna happen really. You maybe see a little bit of progress, but you're not going to get great results. You have to stick with it. But then at the same time, when my clients hire me, it can be difficult to, you know, in month 1, we're definitely going to do a lot of prospecting, but we're really just building this pipeline. You can't expect that after 1 month, we're going to have,
right,
you know, tons of new deals. And that's the same with SEO really though, in a way.
Is it because the pipeline is like something that you have to like learn for their specific business, that's why it's difficult, or is it just like getting the people in there so you can warm them up, that's why it's...
Yeah, it can be both. So yeah, I mean, number 1, we just have to experiment with a lot of things to figure out like what actually works, what people respond to, so that can be challenging. But yeah, and the other part is just building that pipeline. So right. If you reach out to 1,000 people in 1 month, there'll be a very small percentage that's ready for your service right then.
Right.
But there's an even bigger chunk that, you know, they said they weren't interested right then, or they were kind of interested, but they will be at some point.
Right.
But it could be 3 months, it could be a year from then. And I've done that a lot, where I've done email campaigns and literally a year later the person responds to that initial email. You know, because what I said in the initial email stuck with them, and then they later when they think it's weird, but I'll get emails from people like, hey, you know, I remember this email. Or what's more common is like I reach out to someone, they're interested, we talk for a little bit, we do an appointment, they fall off.
Right.
You know, I send them a contract, they never sign it, they disappear.
But then come back
8 months later, they're like, oh, you know, now we're interested. And
what is the deal with people that do that? Why do they do that?
I don't know. It's interesting.
Because that happens to me too.
Yeah.
Where they'll be like, yeah, you told me this like, you know, a year ago, and I'm here now, and I'm like ready. And it's like,
yeah.
What triggered that for you?
I mean, I think it's good at least because you have your branding was strong enough that they remember you. Like I'm sure there's tons of salespeople that have contacted you or me that we totally forgot about. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll go through my old leads. I'm like, oh, I remember this person or that. And I'm like, dude, I totally just let that go.
Yeah. I don't know, it's weird, but I mean, that's kind of how it works. I think it makes sense. Like if they're a business owner, they have maybe like 5 things on their mind that are the priorities they need to get fixed. If you come to them with something else, they just don't want to think about it. Not really a priority. They have 5 other big projects going on. Yeah.
So here's a question, because a lot of people want to know, like, they don't trust what I say, mainly because they're like, well, Chase, how can I have somebody like a customer like you would have, because you already have the brand, you already have the, the authority. So when people come to you, it's like you already have them sold, basically.
Yeah.
Where people who usually watch are like, well, I don't have the authority, I don't have the like the videos, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously you're dealing with like the coldest of the cold, right? You're just dealing with like email and the like people on LinkedIn. I mean, that's like, so I would say you're basically like the king of warming people up, right? Like, how do you do that from a cold outreach perspective? Like, how do you get people warm? Because I can imagine these people are probably very irritated from like, obviously being barraged on these platforms.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're right that, like, obviously the ideal is you have this really well-known brand and you have 1,000 inbound leads a day or whatever. You don't need to do anything.
Right.
So yeah, and that's what some of my clients have too. So, I mean, projects that I suggest for people that usually get us better results in total cold outreach is like, hey, do you have a list of old leads? Like, people that, especially if it's a company that's been around a while, they usually have like these expired leads that were from 3 years ago that they were talking to and never talked to again. Like, let's call those ones first. So that's, I mean, I agree that it is the lowest conversion rate.
So you actually call like expired leads? You don't? Those aren't like dead to you? Because I look at all these old leads that I have and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to call these people. Yeah,
I mean, definitely some of them. Some of them will have completely forgotten or just have no idea, so they might as well be called. But there'll always be the people that are like, oh yeah, I remember that, or they kind of forgot about you but not completely, and they are interested now. So those are usually the best ones, because I mean, we all know that in marketing, it's like the people that already know you, just way easier to sell. Right. So yeah, it can be tough doing the cold prospecting because it is the lowest conversion, but it's something that everyone can do at least, right? Everyone can just reach out to people, tell them what they do, what they can offer, and have a meeting. How about a live? Oh, we got a few questions on here.
Yeah, let's see them. If you guys can, put your questions in stars so we can see them a little bit easier. And also, don't let me ask all the questions. Like, if you want to take it away with like what you think they should know,
okay.
I'm totally,
Yeah, okay. What are your favorite tools for SEO? I don't think that one's for me. I have no idea. Let's see. And that actually, I forgot to answer your part of the question, like why didn't I start my own agency? I just don't really know anything about the technical aspects of SEO. Or
you weren't that interested in it either.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, I just saw a bigger opportunity to help companies with sales. So that's just the opportunity I saw. I mean, not like there was some huge reason I didn't do it, but that's just the opportunity I saw at the time. Let's see. What CRMs do you like? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it really depends, like what kind of sales process you have. But my favorite one, so if you're like an agency that's kind of getting started, HubSpot and Nutshell are really good ones. I like Nutshell a lot actually because it kind of it automatically pulls in people's contact info a lot of times if it's publicly available, so you save your time on doing like what's that called, data entry. Yeah, but I think if you're just starting out and like you're the only salesperson, you don't even really need a CRM. I would just say more
just like spreadsheets.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you have like 10 active deals or less, it's not really worth like setting up a whole CRM, and because you don't really have a full sales process with multiple salespeople or anything, you can just keep track of it. So yeah, I'd say if you have like 10 to 15 deals max, you just need a spreadsheet really. But yeah, Nutshell's pretty good if you're an agency that has more than that, just because it pulls in contact info. Yeah, Google Sheets makes a mean CRM. That's true, and you can do like all sorts of stuff on there. Like you can use the data validation to have like a status, like if they're, what stage of the sales process they're at. What else we got?
Do you script your calls?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I first started out, I did, like I'd have this 4-page script of what to say, and then I realized like halfway through the first page, it totally went off. So I script the first line. Like you really should script the first line so you sound confident, right to the point. Beyond that, I do have a framework. So basically what I'm trying to get out of the call is like introduce them to my service so they know exactly what it is, give them a reason to pay attention, so some kind of result or something we do that'll catch their attention. And then I just want to ask questions. So after that, I just have a list of like 5 questions I would ask. Could be more or less, but basically for me, I want to figure out, what's their sales process like now? Where do they need the most help? So basically I know where to actually suggest things. And if I was doing sales for an SEO agency or a digital marketing agency, I would just ask, have a list of questions about, what are you doing for marketing now? Where is the most opportunity for your business, or where do you get most of your customers? Just basically, you want to open up a conversation. So they'll tell you about marketing, and ideally what you'll get out of that is they will tell you, oh, we really are missing out here. Like
and then you write that down, you try to repeat it back to them, right?
That's the ideal. Like if the business owner knows, oh, we are really bad at this, and then they acknowledge it, that's really good. So that's what you're trying to get at. Something like I guess you'd call it a pain point, but basically something they know that they're not doing well, that they really need help with.
Right.
And that's the point of the questions. Yeah, I would not script the whole call because you could just never tell. Like they might ask you a question and then it goes off on some. Like I would never try to keep it in this like linear script. Like okay, they said this, now I have to say. And then it comes off really awkward too.
Is there like a certain time you shoot for? Like keeping them on the phone for at least like 10 minutes? Something like that?
Yeah, I would say the best calls are usually at least 5 minutes, but usually not longer than 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say if...
That's when you're like, I gotta go, man.
Well, and I don't know if it's not necessarily because they stay on the line, but I found that if someone's just willing to pick up a cold call and talk with you for 30 minutes,
right.
They probably don't have a lot going on.
Right.
So it's kind of a bad sign usually.
That's when you're like, actually, I'm not interested.
Right. So, I mean, if it's like a business owner that actually has money to spend, usually they'll have enough time to actually talk with you, but they're not going to stay there for 20 minutes talking to you. They want to get to the point. I mean, you want 5 minutes because you want to make sure it's a real conversation, not, hey, we do this, can I send you more info?
Yeah, I saw that one call you had with this guy, and he was like, he's like, yeah, I only have like a minute, but you still were able to get him. He was like, he got off the phone all fast, and then you sent him an email, but then he still got him. I'm like, geez, even after a minute call, like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just having like a strong, compelling hook.
Right.
Having some, if it's something that just sounds really boring or whatever, people will say, oh, just send me an email.
What is your hook, by the way?
I mean, basically, I just say we cold call for companies.
So you're just straight up, you tell them, you're like...
Yeah, and people usually like that because cold calling sucks, so they don't want to do it.
So you break the ice, you're like, look, this is what I do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just say
you don't try to
call.
kind of beat around it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so normally, I usually want people to watch a video of mine, but I'll just ask them about their sales. How many salespeople do you have? What's the problem Well, I don't say what's the problem, but if there was an issue, what is it? Is it prospecting? Is it closing deals? And a lot of times business owners will say, oh, we have 5 salespeople, but they're just not very busy. They have maybe one call a day, one meeting a day, and then they sit around for 3 hours. How can we keep them busier?
Right.
And that's kind of the ideal for me. Let's see, what else we got?
Do movies like Boiler Room get you hyped into the pick up the phone mood? What is that?
That's funny. Yeah, kind of. I remember watching, Wolf of Wall Street.
Right.
That was, part of it was about cold calling. I guess a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I think anything that, even though those are somewhat unrealistic or, actually what I used to watch, I watched Grant Cardone's videos all the time.
Do you like him?
I was kind of going to say what my, so I think there's definitely a lot to learn from him, but at the same time, a lot of people aren't going to be that aggressive. I'm not going to be like that. So I kind of watch it for some of the things, but he's extremely aggressive. I can never do that.
Really?
So, if I try to copy him, it just come off really awkward, I feel like. So yeah, I think people just have to watch a lot, all sorts of different people, and take the pieces that'll work for them. Everyone has their own style. But no, I was saying I used to watch Grant Cardone's videos a lot. I haven't really watched them recently, but because it does get a little too much. He's, very aggressive and definitely a lot of his calls too. It's actually he has a few good videos of his his salespeople doing training, and those are really good. I think the ones with Grant aren't as great because usually it's him calling his best friend and saying oh, buy this $15,000 product.
Right.
So those aren't as good, but he does have some good ones, especially the training. There's a one, if you type in live cold call, I'm pretty sure the first one that comes up is this guy Orion, who he's doing training and Grant just screams at him.
Oh my god.
But yeah, that's a really good one, I think.
Do you watch Jordan Belfort and stuff?
No.
You think he's full of it?
I don't know. He definitely knows his stuff when it comes to sales. It's just kind of hard to follow him, with all the stuff he's done, like all the money he stole. I think he definitely has a lot. He knows sales for sure, but yeah, I would feel a little weird just being a disciple of his. We're about to miss a few at the top, I think.
Oh yeah.
Or did we?
Says, is LinkedIn a good way to get digital marketing clients, as when you connect with people, it automatically gets their email and you can put them in a drip?
Oh, I just saw that one. Okay.
And
no, definitely. What were we going to say?
And then also, how do you overcome anxiety cold calling? Because I feel like we should just try to do one right now, and I should try not to get anxiety about it. You should just give me a script and I'll just call. I get such bad anxiety about it. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, I know. Okay, well, for LinkedIn, LinkedIn's really good right now for sure because people read their messages. I think it's pretty quickly getting inundated with a lot of people sending messages, whatever. But I think it's still really good right now because people read almost all their messages on there. You definitely still have to have something good to say, like something compelling to say. Why did messages get deleted?
Wait, something got deleted? Oh, yeah, if they put all caps, the robot deletes their comments.
Oh, okay. Cool. But yeah, no, LinkedIn's really good. I would just keep your message super short. Try to do something compelling so people engage with you, but the open rates on there are really good. And it's really good to get people's contact info because everyone lists exactly what they do. They usually have their email and phone number.
So you were telling me that you had a program. What do you teach in that program?
Yeah, so I have a couple really, but yeah, it's mostly about prospecting. That's kind of what I focus on. So how to craft a message that people will pay attention to, and then how to do it on email versus LinkedIn versus calling. Also how to set an appointment. So yeah, I mostly focus on the first part of that, and I think a lot of people, especially if they've sold anything before or have their own business, they're usually pretty good once someone's in the appointment. Like once someone wants to meet with them, I think a lot of people can handle that pretty well. I mean, I do provide a framework on how to do an appointment, but I think most people, especially agencies that are starting out, the big thing is how to prospect. What should I say to people? How to get them interested? So yeah, that's what my program is mostly about. I also have cold calling scripts, cold email scripts, that kind of thing. And I think for cold calling, I wanted to share a quick way to kind of reduce the anxiety. I mean,
coffee.
Oh no, I think, isn't that bad for anxiety?
No.
Yeah, so I mean, I talk about cold calling a lot on the channel, but I don't actually, most of my calls aren't totally cold.
Right.
I think kind of the days of picking up the phone, completely cold contacting someone are pretty much done because there's so many things like email and LinkedIn where you can easily, so what I do really is reach out to people on LinkedIn. And then if I reach out to 100 people, maybe a few of them respond. But then I have 90 people that, got it, didn't respond, but maybe accepted my request to connect. So then I'll call them later. So it's kind of a cold call because they didn't respond back. But there's a chance that they already know who I am because I sent them a message or I sent them a couple message. Thanks, Chad. But yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. So run a campaign. If people don't respond after a week or two, then call them. So a lot of people will still be no thanks.
Right.
But there will be people who say, oh yeah, I remember that message. And since they already heard from you, they're a little more receptive.
So out of curiosity, what is a close worth to you?
For my own business, how much?
So well, obviously you're selling this other business as well, but I mean, on average, you spending your time closing people, what is that generally worth? If you can get one sale from that.
So let's see, there's a couple ways to break it down. So I think, well, here's the way I kind of view it, in terms of expectations of how many people you should close and how much time you should spend. When I think of the prospecting phase, I think of doing 100 contacts a day. So
holy cow.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, 100 contacts, but you can mostly automate that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, are those all manual?
No.
Okay.
Not really. So yeah, you can use. There's so many tools you can use to automate it. So the part of it can be automated, but reach out to 100 people, you'll get a few responses back, and so those are easy ones. You can just send them your Calendly link or send them more info or whatever, and But then you have others that you can now contact in a different way, right? Because some people don't read their LinkedIn messages or they're not receptive to LinkedIn messages. But if you take the list, then cold email them and maybe try a different type of message. Like if you have a few different outreach messages or different videos, send them something different because maybe they did read the first one and it didn't, it just didn't resonate for whatever reason. But yeah, so I would think of like if there's 100, you probably should set like 5 or 10 meetings. And if you're following up, doing multiple different ways of contacting them, 5 or 10 meetings. So, say it's 5. I would say each meeting.
5 per day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you contact someone, maybe they don't want to do the meeting till next week or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, you should be setting like 5 meetings a day. And so, yeah, I would think that usually 2 out of 5 should close. The thing with that is maybe not immediately. Right. Like maybe 1 out of the 5 closes within a week and the other, it takes a little while. And that's fine. I think a big thing is don't be impatient. Like just because you want someone to close, like don't pressure them and then burn the bridge. Because if they were pretty interested, they'll probably eventually buy from you. But if you feel like, oh, I got to close you right now, that's kind of the downside about like Grant Cardone's videos.
It's just like instant close.
Right, and that's what and that's what his sales team does. They're high pressure, but they're good at it.
Like, what's your card number?
Yeah, exactly. But like if I did that, I just feel like it would not come off as well, and I don't really do that. Right. So I try to always, if someone doesn't immediately sign, I try not to be like passive aggressive, but sometimes people would like either sign now or else or whatever.
Or else we hate you.
Yeah, and I've seen that, like, oh, sign this within 2 weeks or we're rescinding the offer. Like I don't do that. I want to, on the meeting, give a good impression, show them good case studies or show them something useful. And then, from there, some people will close immediately, but then of course people want clarification or they want to think about it, or 2 weeks from then that'll be the day they'll be like, okay, let's get this done. Like send over the contract, that kind of thing. Let's see what else we got.
You were going to say something, I think, about the, But I still want to know, what is the average conversion value for you? Because for me, I'll tell you my process. So what I do is I'll do these videos and I'll do blog posts, I'll do Facebook groups, that kind of thing. And I'll lead people to a free audit. Mm-hmm. And then I'll take the people with the higher budgets, like 2 or 3K usually. Yeah. Also usually within a niche that I'm willing to work in. Like if their website doesn't really have a lot of data, they're just looking for like a marketing strategy because they don't have any traffic. Yeah. Those are people are usually harder to work with, because they have to invest a bunch in content and growing their brand and all that stuff. It's just a whole lot of work. And so what I'll usually do is I'll take websites with higher data, I'll give them a free audit, and then I'll sell them on a full audit, which is, I'll just give them like the first part, and then the full audit will be like $500 to $800. Mm-hmm. And then I'll sell them on like a $2,000, $3,000 package. Yeah. So like a conversion for me is probably like, I would say worth like 2 or 3K.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would say mine's in that range, usually a little lower. So like I either sell them, so I guess my funnel is usually like, hey, this is what we did for another company, or here's a video of me cold calling. So they can kind of see what my strategy is. And then we'll either sell them like a strategy. So kind of what you do with like the full audit, like this is how we would tackle sales for your company. So that could be like 500 to 1,000. And usually we just do that more as a custom kind of quote. And then if we do the service for them, it's somewhere like we'll suggest $2,000 and we'll do this is the scope of work, and then also through my channel I do have some like lower price things too, like $40, like here's a few scripts, that kind of thing. Nice.
So you have like your products, then you have the services.
Yeah, exactly. And that works for me too, to like I have a bunch of free value on the videos, and then people might make a purchase from the shop, and if they like that, then they'll reach out. If they're like a business owner, if they have a company, then they'll reach out and say, oh, we actually want to have you consult on us with sales, that kind of thing. Let's see, what kind of hook do you use to make sure that the business owner doesn't just hang up? They will hang up no matter what you say. Like you could have the best pitch, half the people will hang up anyway. That's kind of the tough part, and that's kind of what I counsel my clients on too, is like you can't expect we're going to have some perfect thing where we call anyone or offer something to anyone and they sign up. Most people are just going to hang up anyway or not be interested. But what I would say is like make it very specific. So the worst thing you can do is just have this rambling pitch and they don't even know what you're offering. Then it's really easy to say no. So make it very specific, just like 1 or 2 sentences, and then some sort of question that just leads them to the next phase. Like, can I get you more info, or would you be interested in a free audit, or would you be interested in like a free strategy? And then if, that's something that people say yes to a lot more, and then I would ask my questions. So I'd say, just so I can actually make the strategy specific, what are you doing for this? If it's SEO, like, what are you doing for SEO? Or
do you qualify them somehow with like their budget? Because like you don't want to just give this to somebody that has like no money, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. So yeah, usually what I do is if we start on LinkedIn, like you can filter on LinkedIn if you have premium.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and just filter by like number of employees. So we'll start with
nice.
Companies. I think it's 1 through 10 is an option, so we do anything above that. So usually if they have 11 plus employees, we can sell something to them. So yeah, I mean, it depends how you're building the list. So you could also, another option is if you're building a list from a place you can't really get employee data or revenue data, you could just qualify them after.
Okay.
Right, like you will talk to people and then you look them up and it's like, it's obviously one person.
Right.
Or you could just straight up ask them too.
Yeah.
Or and I think another big thing with cold calling is when people ask for pricing, it's kind of where people are hesitant to give that, which is I think kind of odd. Like I give people the pricing, and I know it can be tough, especially with services because it varies.
Right.
Like every client pays a little bit differently, but what I say is I'll give them at least a range, because that's a way to disqualify them too. Like I wouldn't say, oh, our pricing comes later, because then I don't want to keep them in my sales process.
Right.
If then I propose something that's $2,000 and they're like, oh, what? And then I wasted like 3 hours working with them. And so I usually tell people up front, at least give them an idea. Like, oh, we have clients that pay like $1,000 to $2,000, something like that. They're almost all in that range. And then people either say, oh, I can't do that, or at least now they know. I mean, there are always people that kind of are going to waste your time anyway, but most people, at least then they know they'll either drop off or they'll stick with it because that sounds reasonable. So
I had an experience with this guy that was calling about doing it was like a training program or something, and I was like, bro, all I want is I just want to know, like, how much is this going to cost? Like, he's like, well, it ranges on this and this, but he wouldn't give me a price. Like, I have to get on the phone with you. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not getting on the phone with you. Tell me a range. Like, you have to give me some idea. He's like, no, I don't have one. I'm like, that is BS. Like, you're going to offer me something. And then eventually he, like, after all of that, I was like, okay, I'm done. He's like, oh, here it is. I'm like, no, dude, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I hate when, I guess it depends on what type of business it is, but like if you don't give some idea of the pricing on your site, it's, and I wonder about that, because they obviously just want you to fill it out either way and then they have your info.
Right.
But at the same time, do you want to have a ton of people, if your product is expensive at least, do you want to have a ton of people that are now expecting a reply from you?
Right.
But have no idea what it costs? Like no idea that the first audit costs $500? Probably not. Like you would want to give them an idea of, and that's fine if your pricing isn't totally solid, but give some sort of idea on the site maybe, or if you're talking to them on the phone.
Right.
So I think that was, do you use web scraping methods in the process of acquiring your cold contact list?
I'll make that bigger so you see it.
Nice. Yeah, I do actually. So, I mean, LinkedIn's great because you can just pull the list from there, and then I would usually hire someone on Upwork to like build out the rest of the info. Because LinkedIn, maybe half the people have their email on there.
Have you heard of Phantom Buster?
No, I haven't.
It does like all this crazy stuff with LinkedIn. It'll like you can scrape people's emails off of there based off their profiles, and you can actually scrape their LinkedIn profiles off their Facebook. So it pulls their email from their Facebook and finds them on LinkedIn, and then you can like comment on their stuff. You can like all their stuff. Like you can totally interact, like create this whole automation sequence on LinkedIn that interacts with them. It's gnarly. It's cool. Yeah. And you can take their LinkedIn stuff and then it'll reverse, say the opposite, find their Facebook profile, and then you can message them on Facebook automatically and say, hey, thanks for connecting with me on LinkedIn.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, something like that. I mean, that's kind of what. So yeah, either like, well, there's scraping plugins for Chrome that can help with that too. So I either like start with LinkedIn, or you start on Google, and like if you're running a campaign, you want to target like towing companies or whatever, we'll just type in the term, and then you can usually scrape the business names, and then I'll hire someone on Upwork to find the contact info, like find the business owner name. Yeah. So I know it's not the most efficient, but at the same time, I usually just have my clients pay for it, and it's pretty cheap because you can hire people for pretty cheap on Upwork. But at least then I know where the data is coming from, because I have done projects where like we buy a list, but then ends up a lot of it's not accurate, and I don't like not knowing where the data came from. So at least if I build it manually, it takes a lot of time, but at least I know where it came from and the data's fresh because we just grabbed it off the internet.
Do you ever do like remarketing, like ads, where you like take their emails and like put it to a Facebook list or something?
No, I haven't personally done that for myself.
Gotcha.
Have you?
I mean, not with like just cold emails, like people I don't know. I mean, I'll do it with like people that are already actually, but.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we do cold emailing, but it's more like a personalized, like, hey, this is what we offer, here's a video, interested in more info, that kind of thing. I haven't done any ads to them though.
Do you automate your emails, or do you do like all of them manual, like one by one?
I automate them. So I usually use a Lemlist.
Lemlist?
Yeah. So It's like a cold emailing. It's specifically for salespeople, so it's kind of nice. You can like customize it. So if you have all the data, you can make sure it puts in each email, like, I see you're in this area, or their first name.
Custom all the,
Right. And so it's nice is it's specifically designed for cold emailing, so it'll send out the emails every 10 minutes, so you're not just blasting out a bunch of emails and then getting flagged for spam or whatever. How do you handle the I can't afford it objection? So, that's kind of what we're talking about. So, there's two ways to handle that. Either they can afford it and they just don't see the value or whatever. So there's a few things you can do there, like just demonstrate more value, like an additional case study. You can throw in some other service. You can, ideally you wouldn't really get to that very late because they know the pricing, they know what the value is. But you can always add something else in for free. You can give them a small discount as long as it's still profitable. The other scenario is they can't afford it. It's a legitimate objection. And that's a funny thing about like what Grant Cardone talks about, is that he kind of acts as if you can overcome every single objection. Sometimes literally people can't afford it. And it's like a legitimate thing. Right. Like if you're selling a $2,000 product and the person has $1,000 to their name, it's not going to happen, right? So, in that case, there's a few different ways to go about it, but ideally you'd kind of get those things out of the way in the beginning. You filter out the people that legitimately can't afford it or aren't comfortable with the pricing. I kind of think that, and also the way a lot of like people like Grant Cardone portrayed on YouTube is that you're going to have this one giant objection at the end that you need to overcome. I haven't really seen that to be the case. Like I try to get all the tough parts out of the way first, like show them exactly how my service works, and then it's pretty easy from there, right? It's usually like you shouldn't have some giant thing at the very end where they're like, oh, it's way too expensive or something, because you probably didn't do your job well enough in the beginning, like explaining what the price is, what the service is. So let's see. What else we got? Do you get that you don't really do sales at all, like on the phone, right? People just buy from you on...
Yeah, so my leads are pretty warm. People go to my site, they fill out a form, they say they want an audit, and then if they have a big enough budget, I'll give them a call and I'll be like, I'll do pretty much what you do. I'll just ask a bunch of questions, be like, what's your biggest issue? Why do you want this? Yada, yada. I'll write it all down. And then at the end of the call, I'll just repeat it all back to them. I'll be like, oh, so you want this, you want this, you want that. Mm-hmm. They go, yeah. Then you go, okay, well, I'm going to give you this audit, and if you want to move forward from there. But I make sure that they're looking for services and that they're in the market for that. And then I will, I'll come back after doing it for 30 minutes. It only takes 30 minutes to do the audit. The first, it's just like boilerplate stuff. Yeah. Come back, schedule a call for like the next day, and then I'll pitch them like a full audit for like $800, and then I bring them from the $800. I come back again, 2 days later. Oh, here it is. Here's the implementation's $1,500 or $2,000, whatever it is, and then next month after that, then I'll try to sell them like a 3 to 6 month like all in one. Yeah. Where it's like if you want to work with me, you have to pay for the next 3 months up front. It's gonna be $5,000 or $4,500, whatever it is, and then I'll lock them in for those. Because I don't like having clients where they're paying monthly. I would rather just sell them a one-time service, so I know that they're going to be happy, and then I don't have to deal with it if they don't want to be with me anymore.
Yeah.
But if they want results, then I'm not going to play the whole, let's play monthly and then you're going to cancel month 2.
Yeah.
That just drives me nuts.
Right.
People do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. What else you got?
Hi guys, how many prospecting activities do you do per week in calls, emails, and meetings?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're like an outbound salesperson, you should contact 100 people a day, and it's pretty easy with like not necessarily cold calling, but like if you use a LinkedIn tool or cold email, you can easily contact 100 people a day. So basically 500 in a week, and you should contact them on multiple channels. So like start on LinkedIn, grab their emails, or grab all their data, and whatever tool you use is usually will tell you like who you contacted, but a few days later email them. And if they don't respond to the email, then they should be cold called. And you can email them several times or whatever if you really want to, using several different. And I would definitely do like several types of different messages, like a different video, a different hook. Don't just respond like, "Did you see this?"
I saw that one call you did. You were like, you called the guy. You're like, "Hey, I saw you saw my email," but he didn't actually respond. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I saw that. I've been meaning to get back to you, or whatever." And then like, I don't know if you remember that video, but. It's funny how you're just on them, because most people, they're going to look at it, they're just going to be like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll get back to this guy, maybe not, they don't know how to feel about you, but then then you call them, you're like, yeah, I saw you opened it, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know if that's interesting, I can't remember that, but some people don't like that, so I gotta just take it right now, because some people really don't like that.
It's like stalkerish in a way.
Yeah, but well, that's actually. I remember. Wait. Well, that was funny when I was emailing you initially.
I think you did the same thing.
So I used Yesware, but it like shows up and it said Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Right.
Okay, what? But it's just kind of funny. Others, people don't like that sometimes. But
Well, I mean, you kind of have to be a little bit creepy to like, because you want these people to think that you know who they are already, right?
Yeah,
you don't want people to think that you're just reaching out to them because you just want money, right?
Right.
Or like whatever the sale. You want people to be like, oh, because like it's almost like as if I feel like cold calling, if you want to be really good at it, or just like cold selling, is like it's almost like as if somebody walks up to you, they're like, hey, and you don't know who they are, but you want to be nice to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you want to have that sort of same relationship with that person, because they don't know who you are, but you don't want them to feel like they don't know you in a way.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of like on their level.
Right. That's true. Yeah, and that's why. Well, actually, we've done this for clients too. Is like. So especially like if I'm making cold calls for you, I would, I'd reach out and say like, hey, I'm calling from Chase's office or Chase Reiner's office. Like he wanted me to reach out, and people use that a lot. Like you'll see that Greg Cardone does that too. His salespeople always say like, oh, I'm calling from Greg Cardone's office. He wanted me to reach out, which probably not true, but I think in your case people would believe that, because it's not like, but I got calls like that from Greg Cardone's office, and someone's like, "Oh, Greg Cardone wanted me to reach out." I'm like, I doubt that, but no, I think that's a good way to do it too, because it shows that we're purposely reaching out to you. It's not just, this isn't like a call center where we have 1,000 random ass names and we're just calling
on a spreadsheet. You're like line 537,
right? Or it's like an audit. It's like it's good to say, hey, we connected on LinkedIn, but we didn't get in touch. Like I wanted to talk about this. That kind of thing.
I found that that's super important, is if you can take something like, hey, I saw you here, but you're on a different place.
Yeah.
Even though it has nothing to do with being relevant, it somehow makes them think that it's like, oh, he saw me here, and now I'm over here, so he must know who I am. Like, it's some weird connection.
It is weird. Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, if you have a conversation with someone on LinkedIn and then you never hear from them again, and you send a couple messages following up, they'll never respond. But then you email them, and they respond right away. I don't know why.
Right, or if you hit them up on LinkedIn, and then you message them on Facebook, they're like, oh, this is the guy from LinkedIn. Like, even though you're still just the random guy, it's like almost more relevant, because it's like, I don't know how that works. Because I found that when I was doing automation with I was doing a bunch of automation with that tool I was telling you about, and so the whole idea is like, if you could automate scraping lists off LinkedIn, which it does, and then push them into Facebook, and then have it go like those people's posts. Yeah. And be like, hey, I saw you on LinkedIn. It's almost like it automatically makes you relevant to them. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably because of what you're talking about, like you kind of made the effort. It appears that you made an effort to like find them somewhere else, not just randomly, like you're not on some sequence on LinkedIn where just send a message every 3 days until they respond. It's more like you actually went out and found them. And that's why I think the cold calling
if you do it last, it's almost like you actually catch them, they might know who you are already, and you're actually following up on something, not just totally calling out of the blue. And I think there's one more part of that question: how many calls, emails, meetings? So I'd say if you're reaching out to like 500 people in total, you'll get, the first round you'll get some responses. You should just message those people or contact those people in other channels like 3 or 4 more times until they respond. Or, I guess I wouldn't contact them like 50 times, but and I would say a good, like, you should probably be doing 20-25 meetings out of that, and that's if you're a full-time salesperson, because obviously like 5 meetings a day, that's kind of a lot if you're also like running the business, because 5 meetings, probably each one takes 30 minutes, but then you have to do something after, usually like the next steps or write a contract or whatever. Yeah, so I would say like overall contact 500 people, start on LinkedIn, keep messaging them somewhere else. Maybe in terms of calls, you end up calling like, I don't know, maybe 25 a day you do. Like people that didn't respond to something but have been in your sequence for a couple weeks, cold call them, 25 a day, so that's how many a day or a week? 125. And then you should be able to set like 20-25 meetings based on that.
Do you think it's better to hire somebody like you and then just focus on like doing SEO work for people's sites, or do you think it's better for somebody like start incorporating this to their strategy, like going out and finding these people? Because obviously this is a lot of work, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it depends what you're looking to do. Like if you're looking to really grow your agency, you probably want to have your sales in-house, really, at least as much of it as possible. The thing I view my service is like, I don't want to be a full-time salesperson for you. You shouldn't rely on someone who's not really part of your business to do like all of your sales for you. Maybe one aspect of it, like if you hired someone to help with a LinkedIn campaign or that kind of thing. But really, if you want to sell people on something, you should be doing almost all of it, especially like the appointment. You should be handling that, or someone on your actual team who really knows your product and service should be handling it. I could see outsourcing just the cold calling and have one clear objective, like, ask them these 3 questions, record the answers, and set the next step. Like, we're going to send you this free audit or this free strategy or something like that, and then someone from your actual team. If you're really looking to grow an agency, like I would have as much of it in-house as possible so you can actually have a real process. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if it's someone is outsourced, you're more going with their ideas, and it may not be like your actual process.
Right.
I don't know. I've seen both work well. I think a lot of, even, it's kind of surprising, but a lot of really big companies, they'll outsource the first part of that. They'll have like all sorts of channel partners who bring in people who are interested, or cold callers who just do the very first part of generating a lead, like get them interested and say answer these 2 or 3 questions and then pass the lead off. Let's see, was that all that question? Oh no, you asked that one.
I think we covered most of them. On LinkedIn, start a conversation, don't pitch slap me.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Where was that?
Right there, Scott.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like I get a lot of messages too on LinkedIn. So when it's like this really long pitch that doesn't resonate with me,
oh my gosh, who reads all that?
But at the same time, it depends what you mean by start a conversation. Because at the same time, it's totally disingenuous when people.
Oh my god! Do you know this guy, Ron?
Yeah, of course. Well, I've seen one of your videos. I don't know.
He's trolling us right now.
Oh man. It's funny. I actually did have one actual. It's funny. I had a comment. I don't know if you ever saw that, but I had a comment. There's a woman saying, "Oh, thanks for these videos. When someone buys something on Craigslist from me, I put this on loud in the other room and say that you're my husband on a phone call."
What? What? What does that even mean?
I don't know. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what is like the weirdest interaction you've had from doing this?
$1.99. Should we split that?
Yeah, we'll split it.
We'll go to McDonald's.
Yeah. I don't think you can buy anything at McDonald's for $1 anymore.
Oh yeah, we need tax too.
It used to be you could go in there with $1 and you'd be good. Now it's like $6 for a burger there.
That's probably in California.
Oh, is
I
it
think
different?
they still have dollars.
Really?
They have I think a couple things. Well, you still need tax though, I think.
Oh, okay.
Wait, what's the weirdest interaction?
Yeah, like what's like like the most intense? Like, has anybody like threatened to call the cops on you or something?
Have you had that?
Not from doing SEO, I don't think, but definitely from like doing prank calls back in the day.
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't had any. I'm glad I haven't had any super weird ones, like people harassing me or anything. But I don't know. It's weird. I've had a couple people like recognize me on the street, which is really well.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell how we saw each other, but that was fucking weird. But yeah, one time I was in. Well, actually, I used to live like outside of Dallas, and so when I was moving there, like a couple years ago, I was checking out the town. So it's a town called McKinney, which is kind of like a suburb. And so I was walking around, and some guy just came up to me. He's like, "Hey, don't you make videos on YouTube about cold calling?" I'm like, what? And I had like 2,000 subscribers at the time, so it's probably just a really weird coincidence because there's no way. I don't know.
What's really weird is when you start going to SEO conventions, because it's such a tight knit group of people.
Yeah.
So when you have like 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, you go there and it's like everybody knows you. Because it's like the only audience is watching, just like those SEO people.
Yeah.
And it's like you walk in and like, oh my god, is that Chase? Charlie? And it's so weird. You're like, you feel like a celebrity. You should really go to an SEO convention sometime.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, no, I've had a couple like that. Or if I reach out to people doing a campaign, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know you."
Right.
There was one. Actually, I recently hired a sales guy, and his mom knew who I was because she works for a marketing agency or a marketing software company, and like knew who I was. So, yeah, but I'm glad I haven't had any really like negative experiences with someone.
Oh yeah, I mean, I talked to this one guy. His name's Craig Campbell or something. He's like does like all the SEMrush video live streams, and apparently he goes to conventions all the time, and like people will come up and try to punch him and just do crazy stuff because they just don't like him.
That's weird.
I'm scared. Yeah. Actually, I'm scared of myself going to conventions these days because I definitely get a lot of hate for some of the stuff I say.
Yeah, I've seen some of that on the Facebook group.
Oh,
yeah,
are you in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
then
just shadowing. I don't comment.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of people that are like, yeah, I just lurk. I don't say anything.
Actually, the memes that people were making a while ago.
Oh,
I was like, what is that? I think, well, you might have started that a little bit, right?
I definitely.
Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was triggering people super hard.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, on YouTube in general, you just get some really weird negative comments sometimes that have, I don't know. Especially late at night, and deciding it's people that are like drunk or just have nothing to do at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like, best place to find local salespeople. Let's see. I mean,
are your people local, or do you
no,
work with?
I've never met most of my salespeople
really?
in person. So yeah, I just do LinkedIn usually. But I think actually a good place if you want to hire a salesperson, actually just start like at the university. And I found that's really good because they're like every business school has a ton of people interested in sales, and half the kids will go into sales, but they don't actually teach anything.
Right, never like real experience, just theory.
And a lot of the entry level sales jobs for kids are just not very good. So if you can offer an actual B2B sales position, you can get a lot of good candidates. You definitely want to have good systems in place because if you hire someone who's never really done sales and just has some interest, or they've done like one internship, you need to have structure for sure, because then they just won't know what to do probably. But yeah, that's usually where I start, like the business school, and then you can hire them for cheaper too, just because they're just starting out. But yeah, besides that, I mean, I would just do LinkedIn also. Like I don't, locally in terms of like going somewhere and recruiting people, I don't know. I haven't really done that, but I'll just, like on LinkedIn, just type in the location, like filter by your city and just type in like, I don't know, it could be anything. It depends if you want to go for people who already have a sales job and try to recruit them, or there's a lot of people list themselves as like, commission-only salesperson or freelance salesperson or that kind of thing. And that's a good way to start too, because there's a lot of people out there willing to work for commission, like as long as they can just work from home. It's not super like structured as in they have to work 8 or 10 hours a day for you. Like you give them a few leads or appointments and see if they can close them, right, and then go from there.
Is the reason why you hire people like not here is because it's cheaper?
Like Denver's more.
I'm just saying, like, because if you obviously are hiring somebody overseas or something, it's gonna be a lot cheaper to.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I view that more for like when I hire people to cold call, I usually just pay an hourly rate.
Okay.
Just because it's kind of, it's a tough job, so it's just tough to say, commission only cold calling, and it's totally dependent on me closing the deal like weeks later after. So I have looked at that. Like there are places that 12 or $15 an hour goes a lot further than in Denver. I mean, Denver's not really that. Denver's kind of in the middle, I think, in terms of affordability. But yeah, $12 an hour in Denver doesn't really go that far. So yeah, you can hire people in other places. But yeah, I mean, for the people that actually I hire to close deals, I don't really care where they are. Like we have a guy in LA, one in Phoenix, one in Oregon. So it's kind of all over. It's not really like, oh, we only recruit from one area. Do they need to know SEO to be able to sell it successfully? I mean, they don't need to like be an SEO analyst or anything like that, but they really need to know your product. So, I mean, what I do is basically when I recruit a salesperson, and maybe they don't know, like all the parts of the service, but they really need to answer the questions. Whatever the people are going to ask, they should be able to answer it. And I think that is dangerous if you hire someone who has no idea. They're going to end up making some weird promises that are not unrealistic, most likely. And it's not really their fault, but... So yeah, I usually, like if you're hiring a salesperson, you should probably have your sales process figured out pretty well, especially if you're hiring like a younger person. Like I said, I wouldn't like hire them and say, oh yeah, we've never done outbound sales. Like good luck, figure the whole thing out. Right. I would have most of it figured out and then like set some meetings or have them set some meetings, but you lead them and they listen in. Even if they're remote, like they set up the meeting, but you lead it. So like if you were hiring, I mean, have you ever hired salespeople?
I had some high ticket closers that were but it was all warm leads already, like that were applying for things. It's never really been like outreach.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I kind of view those as different too. Like if I hire, so we have the same type of thing, like high ticket closers, but we don't really rely on them to generate the leads. So I'll either run a campaign for them or people that come off YouTube. They'll handle them. So yeah, I think it's really tough, especially if it's commission only. Like to say, oh, do the whole sales process. Do the cold call, get them interested, do the appointment, and then when they want to buy like 2 months later, then do the that's kind of, people aren't going to really be interested in that.
Especially to some random person, like to that person,
Right. I mean, you definitely can, but yeah, it usually takes more. Like they should have a monthly rate. Ideally, they'd be in your office too, not like remote if you really want them to do everything.
How's the YouTube channel? Is it done like well for you, or because honestly most of my leads come from video. Like I feel like there's a way higher conversion rate there than anywhere else.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean most of the clients or most of the people I've sold things to come from YouTube, and it's way easier because they already know me. I'm definitely looking to grow it because right now I get leads, but it's definitely not as like consistent as yours. So I think like just shy of 3,000 subscribers. Hopefully after this it'll be more. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it was like 20 shorts.
I think you'll probably get a couple hundred from it.
Oh, all right.
I mean, we usually get 500 to 1,000 views on these videos, so I'm sure people will go.
Easy to sell YouTubers. What does that mean?
I don't understand why most people don't do YouTube.
Yeah,
it's so weird. People won't do it.
I mean, even like when I didn't really have any following at all, and I don't really have much of one, so I have like little less than 3,000 subscribers. I think like 300,000 views total.
That's good though.
Yeah, and so it's been good. I mean, I've gotten like good leads from it. But yeah, even when I just started, I would every once in a while, like the first couple months, I'd get like one lead a week or something, which is pretty nice.
What's your plan though for the channel? You're gonna just keep doing the cold calls? You're gonna try to...
No, I'm gonna try. So actually, more recently, I've done more like explanation type videos. I don't think those do as well. So like, I have like 50 videos on my channel, and the top 10 are all over like 5,000 views, and they all have in the title live cold call.
Right.
So that's obviously what people like. So I'll probably do more of like actual doing sales. Maybe longer videos about, hey, this is what like the first hour of my sales day looks like, and I'll do a few cold calls in a row.
Right.
Yeah, you pretty much just broke 3K. Oh, perfect.
Oh, really?
Oh, nice. All right, that sounds good. Thanks, guys.
His channel is called Charlie Light.
Needs to scale up and make money. Is Dan the man calling me poor?
Well, people will just say that and they don't know.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I agree though. I do want it to be definitely grow a lot more, so I can have like a more consistent just stream of leads coming from it. Okay, we're gonna take a look.
Charlie Lightning, you know that guy?
No, I'm not sure. Sort of.
There we go.
All right. 2.99 still over here.
All right, guys, let's break his 3K subscriber count right now. Everybody head over to his channel. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And we'll also put it in the description of the video, too, after.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. Yeah, I mean...
kind of want to review one of your videos. Kind of get your reaction to it. I want to see your top video.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, some of the older ones. So
yeah, I remember. I think it's the ones that I used to watch. Because every time people would talk about you two in the group or whatever, it would be, holy cow, this one's got 43,000, or is that a playlist?
No, it's just one video.
Okay, so... Yeah. Is this you? This is you calling somebody, right?
Yeah.
Where's my speaker? Oh, shoot, I don't have my speaker.
Oh, that's a good question for you, Ryan. If a local agency starts up a YouTube channel, what sort of content should they start with?
Well, I found, and this is kind of what we talked about originally, was like, I found that if you start niching down to something, like how you kind of noticed, you're like, yeah, well, but my videos that do the best are usually the ones that, you know, you started out with, which is the cold calling, right?
Right.
I don't know what's going on here, but take that off. There we go. And I found the same thing. So I started out doing SEO audits. Like, that was my big thing. And like, I was doing audits, and I was like, people were loving them, and everybody was booking audits with me.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to do all this other stuff. Like, I was like, oh, let me start doing Facebook marketing. Let me start doing Google AdWords, all that stuff. If you want to, like, that does well if you have a bunch of authority. Like, if you're like Neil Patel or like Ty Lopez, or if you have all this authority, you can talk about whatever you want. And just because you have a huge following, that's going to help promote you to the algorithms. Whereas if you're brand new and you're starting out, like, the worst thing you can do is start trying to be somebody for everybody.
Yeah.
You want to be just somebody who's really specific and does everything really well for one specific type of person. And then once you get that down to a, you know, to a science, then you go, okay, well, now let me try 2 people. So then we'll do this person and then this person. But you do it slowly and you start expanding like that. You don't want to just do 4 videos on something, get a bunch of views, and then change your angle. Like, keep going with that, right?
Right. Yeah, and I would say, like, just do whatever you do, just give people a real example. You know, I think those do way better than, like, the hypothetical type of thing where you say, oh, this is what you should do for marketing. Right. If you just actually do a video of you doing it live, like the audits that you do, people like that a lot more. See it specifically rather than just me talking about, like, in general, this is what you should do.
Well, and they like consistency, too. Like, why do you see people play the same Call of Duty map over and over and over for days on end, or play, you know, anything? It's because people like the familiarity of something that they enjoy.
Right.
And so if you start giving them a bunch of something that they really like, and then you take it away and you're like, oh, Facebook. Yeah. They don't know you as that person.
Right.
They want the, you know, guy who does what they enjoyed originally.
Right. Yeah. Oh, my eye.
I was about to say, you crying?
I'm just crying. Oh, it's beautiful. We have 3K subs. Thank you.
3K subs.
No, I think I'm just staring at the screen the whole time.
Oh, no. Well, we can end it whatever you want, man.
I know, I'm good for a little bit. But yeah, you might have to do the review another time, I guess.
Yeah.
I hate watching my own videos.
Well, maybe we'll do it on sequence 2. We'll do the review because I don't have my speaker.
Yeah. Oh, well, we got, I think... Hey, Charlie. Oh, hey, Gregory. Thanks. One of my most loyal watchers.
I wonder how he got here.
Yeah, he was at least one of the people that said, you know, I told you Chasing would be... Well, I think there definitely is some crossover.
100%.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I come up as a suggested or whatever,
or
you
most
do,
definitely.
But yeah. Or maybe from groups or whatever, but yeah, no, Gregory was one of the ones that noticed that you had mentioned me once on some random live stream, and well, because I looked when he said that, like, your last, like, 5 videos were all 2.5 hours.
Right.
Like, well, I don't know if it's worth like listening the entire time for 10 hours. Do you use an auto dialer, Charlie? Yeah, I do. So
what's that?
Well, basically, like, instead of having a list and then just, like, dialing it on your phone and then calling, you just have, like, in your CRM. So I use Twilio basically to plug into the CRM, and you can just select like these 15 people I'm going to call, and it'll just roll through the calls.
Oh, really?
Much more effective, because if you just dial it manually, like you give yourself time to do something else between.
And then like it hesitates.
It just, yeah, like the auto dialer just helps you rip off the Band-Aid. Like just do the calls.
Right.
Otherwise you end up like doing 5 minutes of research or whatever for someone who won't answer. And It's just much more painful. Like just do the 15 or 25 calls.
Get it over with.
It'll be done in 40 minutes or an hour rather than like, and then what happens, you'll probably eventually find a way to quit. Like,
right.
You'll, after 5 calls, be like, oh, those all suck.
Yeah, I got turned down like 5 times.
Yeah.
So here's something that I'm curious about. For people who are like going, like you've heard of the, was it PUA, pickup artists, where they like have to go and approach like 15 different girls like cold and like talk to them. Would you say like this would be like sort of like the same feeling of like going and, honestly, when I first started doing cold calling, because I used to do it when I started, I'd get on the phone and I would just start rambling about just random stuff. Oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. Like, don't hang out, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was just so uncomfortable, and I was just rushing to get to the point.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you feel like there's a contrast between like people who are like cold calling and then also people who are like trying to get into dating?
I can see that. With dating, you just need one though. So it's
you just
need
like one, right?
Sales, you need like 100 sales a year at least to make. But no, I think there's some similarities. Like with cold calling, you need to do it enough where you get comfortable, and not every single bad call is like a negative emotional thing.
Right.
You just know that you do have a plan. Most of the time, it will work. Like if you call for an hour, you get 2 or 3 good leads. Like you need to be at a point where you can just deliver it, not take it personal when the person doesn't. When the person is not interested or whatever. So you got to do it enough. I mean, also the other thing is like if you just do 5 cold calls, like chances are they're probably pretty bad, right? If they're your first 5 cold calls, they're just going to be bad. You got to do it enough that you actually get good and that you get real results. Like if you do 25 a day every single day, you'll get some leads. You'll get better at it. Ideally you'd like record yourself and listen back. I know it's hard to do that, but figure out where people might have lost interest, because you can kind of tell sometimes. Like when you say a certain thing, people are like, oh,
right,
no. But yeah, you just have to do it enough, and that kind of does help, like rip off the Band-Aid. Like having an auto dialer, just do 20 calls, like line them all up, so you basically just sit there and do the calls, like have the script up, have maybe their website if you can pull that up. But yeah, I think. The other thing, what we forgot to talk about was how we ran into each other was that Friday?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what day is it?
I think it wasn't it Monday? No, it was Sunday.
Yeah, probably Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm going to go check on the dog really quick.
Okay.
You can manage this audience for a second, right?
Yeah, sure.
Guys, ask him any question you want. I have to go check on my dog.
I'll just redirect your site to mine. Chase and I was dogs going crazy, but basically so I live in Denver, and I was just walking around with my girlfriend in downtown Denver, and we were at this co-working space on the 3rd floor, but there's like this market on the 1st floor, and I just happened to see Chase there, like walked by, and he said, I just heard someone say, oh, Charlie, and I looked, and it's him, like 2 days before we had our interview scheduled, which is pretty weird. All right, next question. Charlie, how many calls do you make per day on average? I don't make cold calls every day. So like the way I view it, if you're a business owner or a salesperson, you should make at least 25 a day just to maintain that consistency, get a few leads coming in from cold calling. That was usually my goal. Like that was my focus of having my own pipeline, is just doing like 25 to 50 a day. So usually more like 25 or 30, or you could view it as a solid hour. Like have an hour scheduled where you're going to cold call, you do 30 minutes, maybe take a 5-minute break, and then you do another 25 or 30 minutes. Okay, and what's the best way to start the cold call? Like how's the best to open? Something like really simple. If someone has to listen to you for like 10 minutes, not 10 minutes, but like if someone has to listen for a full minute before they get to speak, people don't really like that. So I would just have pretty much a 2-sentence thing. If you're a marketing agency, you can say something like, hey, we help towing companies like yours. We just worked with one, got them this result. I wanted to see if you're open to working together. So just something really short where you can open up a conversation. you don't really need to be super aggressive and like say, hey, when can we have a 15-minute meeting? Like just get them to open up, have some sort of conversation. Because if you can do that, then you know, once you start a conversation with someone, kind of uncover what their pain points are, it's really easy from there. So just give them the opportunity to quickly hear what you have to say, and then just open up a conversation.
My dog's not going to stop. We might have to end it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, my dog's going nuts right now.
I'm sick of it anyway. Our admirers left. You know.
But yeah, let us know if you guys want to see another one of these. I might head over to Denver at some point, and maybe we'll do one on your channel too. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. And if you have any other questions or anything, you can leave a comment. I'm sure Charlie will respond. And also check out his channel. We left the link in chat, but we'll also put it in the description. And yeah. So,
nice. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, man. That was cool. All right, let me just get out of this. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video too. Don't forget about that. Bye.